Hey everybody, hunter, fisher, trapper, trader, guide, scout, and interpreter, and just a country cook, Steve Hall, here in Nashville, Tennessee, along with pretty Miss Sheila running that camera. Hi, Sheila.
Hi.
Today I got to dedicate this entire recipe to a guy out of Shelton, Washington. His name is Steve Daigle. He contacts me through shotgunredcompany at yahoo.com, our email, and he says, I'd like to send you some venison. What's your address? I thought, I won't turn no venison down, so I gave him my address. But here comes a cooler with all kinds of goodies in there, and I sent it to my phone because I didn't want to forget. I'm going to rat on him because he sent me so much stuff. He said he put in there elk burger, and then in their notations he put I ran out of steaks. But he put elk burger in that cooler, elk summer sausage, which was just fantastic. It's already gone. We snacked on that for a couple days. Moose stew meat, which is just excellent, and moose heart, which we're doing today, black-tailed deer steaks, homemade Canadian bacon, which we've been slicing up and putting on pizzas, out of this world, and Pacific Razor clams, just caught yesterday. He put in his email. They sent them in, and it was fantastic. So, Steve, this entire recipe is dedicated to you. So what we're going to do today is moose heart fried up, and it's venison. A lot of people say, well, I got some venison and I also got some moose. It's the same thing. Moose, caribou, elk, whitetail, blacktail, they're all in the venison family. I got this sliced up, just delicious. In fact, me and Sheila sliced it up a little earlier. Watch this part of the video. Now, first of all, I was so amazed at how big the moose heart was, because normally when I take a small whitetail heart and cut it from the top to the bottom, then lay it flat and cut out all the ventricles and all the skin around the outside to give it just a pure meat look, it's nowhere near as big as this. This must just be the wall off of one side. And I started to trim this up before the recipe. In fact, I cut this little piece off here, and it was so tender that I thought, Sheila, turn the camera on, because I want to show everybody how this is just like, man, that meat is like backstrap tender. Isn't that fantastic? Now, I want to thank them for cleaning it all up before they even sent it to me, because it didn't have any of the ventricle parts or any of the outer skin. They trimmed off all the silver skin. This is the piece of meat that I got in the mail, frozen, and I thawed it out overnight, and man, it's so delicious. And I like to cut these about 3/8 of an inch thick for steaks. And even though this is the heart, there still is a grain kind of running this direction. So that's why I'm cutting against the grain here. And when I get these fried up, I know that flavor. And look at that meat. Isn't that just absolutely gorgeous? If you've never had venison heart in camp and you've never tried heart, I mean, of course, whether it was cottontails or pheasant or chucker or grouse or whatever, we always kept the heart. But they're small because you could fry the whole thing up. But when you get into a bigger chunk of meat like a whitetail, or in this case moose, and I had no idea the moose heart was that big, you have to trim it up. Look how just, man, that just butterflies open. So fantastic. I am so excited about preparing this the way I prepare venison. But this is moose heart. Let me cut the rest of this up. We'll fry it and get going here. Wow, have you ever seen meat that lean and that delicious looking? All the outside was trimmed off, all the inside, any ports throughout the heart were cut out, and he sent me just the flat off of one side of the heart. Some guys take the heart and they roll it, cut it and roll it, and then trim out everything that's not pure meat like this, and then they roll it up into a roast with bacon and sausage and all kinds of stuff inside and bake it. But we're just going to fry this moose heart up. What a treat. And let's get it to the pan. Now that we got it all sliced up just beautiful, come on over and let's get started on this recipe. Well, here we go. We got our moose heart all sliced up, but you'll notice a change. Only part of it is still in steak slices, and the other part is in nice little cubes, because I get on the phone with this Steve today, and I'm talking to this Steve Daigle, and he says, you know, you're going to fry it up. I said, absolutely. When we were up at hunting camp, all the gals in camp, yes, the gals would say, when you go out and shoot a deer and you field dress it, don't throw the heart away. We want it sliced up and fried. It's so good fried up. He said, well, I pickle it and I kind of used your recipe, and I went, wait a minute, I got to try that. He boils this in some salt and a few spices, then he packs it in onions and moose heart and puts the pickling juice in there and pickles it. He said he leaves it in there for a long time and it's delicious. So you ruined me, Steve. Only part of this is getting cooked into steaks. This is going back vacuum sealed into the refrigerator, and I'm going to do a recipe on pickled moose heart. So thanks a lot for that little diversion there. Man, you get to talking to somebody and they throw a recipe at you and it just makes your mouth water. I can't wait to try pickled moose heart. But anyway, to get our recipe going today, we're going to pop in some eggs over here. I always crack them in a bowl to make sure it don't get any shell in there. And even if it does, it don't really matter because that'll just put a little grit in your spit. I'll put about 4 or 5 eggs in there. And I'm going to move my handy dandy blender over here to the center. And I'm going to dump these eggs in the blender. Now I'm going to put a little bit of seasoning in here. About a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. Now I will put all the ingredients in the description box below so you don't have to go to a website to find it or any of that stuff. And I'm going to blend this up. Perfect, perfect, perfect. You want to make it nice and smooth like that. Now you can season the meat and then dip it in an egg wash, but then the seasoning falls off. So I always blend the seasoning right into the eggs. That way it's already in there and it gets on every single one. Let me pop this over here for a second and move this back front and center. See if I can get my little fryer over here. Let me turn the heat up on this and I'll tell you what I'm going to do first. All right, and in this little electric fry pan here, we got 1 whole stick of butter, about half melted already, and 2 tablespoons of canola oil. And that oil in there helps protect the flash point on the butter. In other words, it doesn't burn quite as readily. So we're going to get this going on about medium-high heat. And when it looks like it's just starting to get dangerously hot, we're going to take our little venison steak strips here. I'm just going to go ahead and lay a few of them in this egg wash. Let them be soaking in there pretty good. In fact, I'll bet I can get them all in there. I don't have a whole bunch of them because that Steve Daigle talked me into making some pickled moose heart, and I only have enough over there to maybe make a couple of quarts if I put lots and lots and lots of onions in there, which I just might do, but I got to try that. That sounds good. Because I do all kinds of fish, and I do all kinds of other pickled stuff, pickled eggs, everything, pickled shrimp, but I've never done pickled venison, especially venison heart, and he may just have ruined me for the rest of my life when it comes to that venison heart. It might all get pickled. We'll see in the next recipe. All right, we're getting pretty warm there. Just going to let it get right to the point of not burning, but I want it nice and hot. And I'm mashing. Oh, I guess I should have told you. What's in this little container over here? This is Ritz Crackers ground up pretty fine in there. And that is what I'm rolling them in after I take them out of this seasoned egg wash. I almost forgot to tell you that, and you'll notice that in a lot of my recipes. I forget stuff. It's because I get so excited about the finished product. Now see, it's starting to get a little bit brown right there. The butter is, so it's ready. Man, would you look at this? Now I talked to him on the phone after I already cut up that venison heart, and he said that that was only about 1/2 moose heart cleaned up. And when I say cleaned up, it's very important that if you're going to get people that especially have never ate heart before, which is so delicious, is cut out everything that doesn't look like pure meat. Get rid of all the ventricles, all the skin on the outside, everything. This is going to fit in here just about perfect. Would you look at this? So we're going egg wash, seasoned egg wash with the salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder into the butter. Let me get this nice and brown. I'll clean up some of this stuff and we'll turn these over. I think it's time to turn this. Oh yeah. Now one thing about venison, do yourself a favor and don't fry it to death. In other words, there's so many people that cook venison well done and they just, man, it just ruins the meat. Medium rare at best. And the more it gets rare, because it's so lean, doesn't hardly have any fat in it, it's very healthy. Look at that, nice and golden brown. We're going to move that over here in just a matter of a few seconds. That's so close. I almost did most of the cooking on one side. Good enough. Perfect. Let me turn this off. Let me move this over here. Move this onto some paper towels. Well, we got our venison resting on this paper towel. That'll give me an opportunity to say a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank Steve Daigle out there in Washington for sending venison out of his freezer to our freezer, and now we got it all cooked up. Kind of feel like family now. When sportsmen go out and do all that hunting and fishing and they share their bounty with other people, nothing could be more precious, which leads me to this point. There's an organization, probably been around for 20 years that I know about, called Hunters Feeding the Hungry, where sportsmen donate deer from their hunts, money from their wallets, and even the processors out there process a lot of it free to give to the food banks. And again last year, they fed over 4 or 5 million meals. That's right, 4 or 5 million meals to the hungry right here in the United States. Remember, one deer processed into soup, sloppy joes, shepherd pie, whatever they make, feeds 200 people. Sportsmen have been doing that for years. They never write about it in the papers. They never talk about it on television. But I'm telling you right now, that organization is great. I Googled it the other day, come to find out now it's farmers and hunters feeding the hungry. They kind of incorporated their efforts, and man, they're doing such great things. So the next time you think of a sportsman out there hunting and fishing, remember how many millions of meals they feed every year. That's right, millions of meals to the hungry right here in the United States of America. I salute you guys. I just think that's such a great effort. Now that this is cooled off, let's get back to our venison heart. Come on back over here. See if I can cut through this last piece without cutting this paper towel. We put clean paper towel under this after we drained it. I got to take a look at this here, man. Boy, that is so tender and so delicious. You slice this into little teeny pieces and you put some toothpicks in there. It won't last on the hunting camp table for more than about 10 seconds. It's so sweet and so delicious. All right, for all our first timers out there, I cooked it to where it's just barely pink in the middle. For me, it'd be medium rare, but wow. I should have stopped talking and finished the recipe, but I just automatically put in another piece. 1 second. Okay, I'm done now. I cut out the long chew in there because it was so delicious, you won't believe it. You got to give this a try. It's fantastic. Steve out there in Washington, from Steve here in Nashville, Tennessee, along with Pretty Miss Sheila, we can't thank you enough. And we've got that vacuum sealed already back in the freezer, because it'll be a couple of days till I get to the next recipe. We're going to make that pickled moose heart. But this stuff is outstanding. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. This is the process I use for all my venison. Steaks, backstrap, do that egg mixture, Ritz Crackers. You can fry it in flour and onions and it tastes like liver, but I'd rather do this because it's so sweet and so delicious. Hope you enjoyed this recipe. In fact, we hope you subscribe to our channel. A little Shotgun Red's face will pop up over here in just a little bit. When it does, click on that. When it says subscribe, right next to it is that little bell. And when you click on that bell, that means you want to be notified every single time we come out with a new recipe. We hope you do that as well. Over here, we'll put up some more recipes. And is this the most delicious, man, fried moose heart you ever ate? If it ain't, it ought to be. P.S. Look what I found when I got some of these pieces in the middle. Extra rare. I knew I didn't cook it too long. I just wanted to show that to you. Isn't that fantastic? Man, how moist. And is this the best? If it ain't, it ought to be. Did I say that already, Sheila? I think I did. Say goodnight, Sheila.
Good night, Sheila.
We'll see you next time right here on Cooking with Shotgun Red. Steve Daigle out there in Washington, thank you, thank you, thank you. Guess what I'm having for lunch?